This is Cat-A-Tonic. I'm going to poke around Demo 401, Titanic Honor and Glory. This is version 2.0. There's talk of a 2.1, but it's not out yet. All right, there are loading screens in this. It's just too much for a lot of computers to handle, and so they've broken the ship up into several areas. The longest is the one I just clicked on, first class. Third class is pretty contiguous from front to back of the ship. There's only one stateroom. And you do, from Scotland Road, get to see the engine room and the turbine engine room, reciprocating engine and turbine engine rooms. All right. All right. This is the first class entrance of the forward grand staircase on B deck. So B is part of the superstructure, and so the windows are nice and big. They're not portholes. Um, this is the difference between Olympic and Titanic. The Olympic, the first ship, had a fireplace here, and this was actually part of a B deck promenade, what's now a private promenade. Um, During her short service before Titanic went into the fitting out wharf, they already knew from Olympic that people didn't use the B deck promenade, and so they eliminated most of it and turned a few sections. They saved a few sections, but they were repurposed. So this is now a private promenade for the suite, um, the parlor suite. And this keeps the original alignment of the room with the parlor. It's just that the fireplace has changed, was moved to the forward bulkhead. Then you have two bedrooms. This is the nicer of the two. The other one is, I think, bedroom Harlan and Wolff's bedroom A style, which is a French, I think, Louis the 15th. But this demo doesn't have access to that room. So on the Olympic, all the rooms were in this position. And like I say, that was closed off and that was part of the B deck promenade. But now they moved most of the rooms after the first three rooms here. All of these now go right to the edge of the ship. And that's one way that you can tell the difference between uh, the Olympic and the Titanic, is that these windows now follow rooms, and so they don't have the regular spacing that you have when this was actually part of the promenade and that was a weather screen. Instead, this is now the outside wall. So these three rooms were outfitted by, I think it's a Dutch firm, Mutters and Zoon. You can tell a Mutters and Zoon room because they'll have some kind of nice treatment here on the wall, leather-looking stuff, or you know. So these are the three Dutch styles. They still want to have some work to do. On C deck, there's also I think a modern Dutch in oak, which is more accurate than the one that's shown here. I don't know if this is meant to be the oak one or the sycamore one. Maybe the one back here is the sycamore. And then the middle room is the old Dutch style. This is the one they kind of imitated in A Night to Remember as Thomas Andrews' room, but he didn't stay in this room. So anyway, now this grew out of the mega demo that was available to investors back around 2018, 2019, and I got to see it in Pigeon Forge at the conference there. So This is basically a lot of the existing models knitted together, but it really doesn't have the absolute reference of the hull. That's being redone completely from the ground up by Kyle Hudak. And it will be in the final game, Titanic Honor and Glory. But this is a demo 4, 401, named after the yard number 401. And then there'll be a Project 401 that'll be available on Steam. It'll have a little bit of interactive features, and I think it'll have some nice ambient sounds. There's nothing here. Um, Sorry, I had to cough. Up to this point, the earlier versions, up to version 1.5 of Demo 401, they were using Unreal Engine 4. They switched to 5. Kyle Hudak kind of had a snowball. He took the engineering spaces that a lot of people had been asking about, and he added them to this demo. It was kind of a nice surprise for the rest of the team. They didn't expect it. He just went nuts. It's not perfect, but it gives us a lot of new spaces to look around in, especially crew spaces forward and the 2 engine rooms. So this is the a la carte restaurant. This was an added cost to passengers, and if they wanted to, they could take all their meals here, and then they would get a bit of a discount on their first class price. Again, this is a difference between Titanic and Olympic. Originally, the B deck promenade would have passed through here, and this part of it would have been second class promenade. So it was kind of an odd situation where this nice first class restaurant would have second class passengers walking by the windows. So in the end, um, the restaurant was expanded because it was so popular on Olympic that when they were fitting out Titanic, they decided to expand it to the outside wall there. This is the look of the original wall. So you see these 2 nice windows here, and then this little rounded window, this nice bay here. And then the Café Parisien was added, and this is again another remnant of the B deck promenade. So this would have continued forward all the way to the front of the ship. Eventually on Britannic, they were planning to eliminate even this. And so the a la carte restaurant would continue on both sides, port and starboard, filling up the space. And then they would sort of play around with some spaces to create a reception area. In Titanic's case, you have just a larger landing here to create a nice reception. Um, on Olympic, it's much smaller. So, but they did eventually add an Café Parisien in the on the Olympic after the loss of Titanic. So some of those changes were backfilled into Olympic. So this is the aft grand staircase, the aft first class staircase, and you notice has a similar dome to forward. It's one level lower. The other one is actually set on boat deck, and this is A deck. And this one is nice and round. It's smaller and it's round, and you'll notice that the one out front is, the one forward is a big oval. This is Frank Brown's room, eventually Father Brown, and there's a replica of his camera. So many of the unique pictures of Titanic were taken by Father Brown. It's interesting that although Titanic is famous because of the sinking, actually very little was photographed of her. So when she went into service and she was being promoted, they were actually using pictures from Olympic in many cases. And there's the beautiful first class smoke room. This was completely changed for Britannic. It would have been finished very differently. The position of the galley and pantry was on the edges. This ran all the way up, this wall ran all the way up against the second class forward staircase back there. And the fireplace then is against this wall. And this whole area here is filled in by an accumulator room, which I guess is a kind of a battery room. But this is what Olympic and Titanic look like. I understand that the colors of the floor were different and possibly the color of the chairs as well. A nice little galley and pantry serving both the first class smoke room and the veranda and palm courts. Nice view back here. Now if I exit these doors, we'll have a loading screen to go to the exterior, and I don't want to do that for now. So on Britannic, these rooms were shoved farther back. We're actually even with that little bump out there, that mechanical room and storage room, the fan room, and then the storage on either side. This wall was pushed right up against that, and so the whole room was moved aft, and then spaces were created here and on the other side where they put the pantry and galley, and then there was a short corridor here, and I think there was now going to be revolving doors on both sides. Right now, I don't think passengers generally used the door on this side. I think that was mostly just for service. But on Britannic, had you been outfitted, then you would have been able to access the veranda and palm courts from both sides through the smoke room. And originally there was no children's playroom, so since this wasn't used much and most of the smoking, I guess, took place on the other side, this became the children's playroom. And then eventually, I'll show later that one was conceived for Britannic and actually added to Olympic in one of her refits. Nice little skylights up here. Sorry, I'm not much of a YouTuber, so that you're not going to find all kinds of nice music and stuff and graphics. This is just a walkthrough and my droning voice. This is the only active fireplace on the ship. Everything else was electric. This was actually a coal fire. Many of these beautiful fittings found their way into other facilities. I think what is it? A hotel in Elnick or something, I think, has these lights. I mean, obviously from the Olympic, not from the Titanic. Has these lights and much of the paneling from other rooms, but these lights found their way into the room that they assembled from I think the first class lounge paneling. Let's see. I guess we can poke around up here. This is a pantry that serves both the deck and the first class lounge. And this room was modeled after the decoration of Versailles. It's hard to believe that people would have big skirts in these little rooms, you know. Maybe they weren't used like that. Maybe the furniture is a bit oversized. I don't know. Derek Favre, the programmer, has gained a lot of efficiencies up to 1.5. It was kind of stuttery. It was really hard even to get this room loaded. And at the time, UE5, I guess, didn't do ray tracing. So I'm not sure what they've had to do, like mirrors. He plans to up this in version 2.1, make this a little nicer. But I think they finally are getting ray tracing working on the later versions. Whether or not Titanic Honor and Glory takes advantage of that, I don't know. I'm no techie geek. So you see how the corridors shift sides? You get that side over there, aft. And then as you go forward, you flip over to this side. Here's the reading and writing room. It was like a ladies' drawing room, a withdrawing room, a drawing room. Later in Olympics life, you see mixed people in here, men and women, but at the time it was conceived as mostly a woman's space. And this little alcove uh, was eliminated in Britannic, and from here back, they picked up some rooms, and then the uh, the ceiling here that pokes up into a deck, I'm sorry, into boat deck. This part of it is eliminated, and this becomes, and above that becomes the floor of the new children's playroom. And that was eventually, even though it didn't make it on Britannic, obviously she wasn't outfitted. She was sunk during World War I. But later refits of Olympic did see this alcove closed in and a children's playroom added above and staterooms from here over to the boarding area. I remember years ago, Kyle was really proud of these little doors. He did a nice job, Kyle Hudak. So there's the forward grand staircase and a beautiful oval uh, dome. And I think they've determined that at night it wasn't backlit. So when they do add uh, a night feature to this, it'll be for Project 401. I don't think there's any kind of change like that in version 2.1 of this demo. But Project 401, which will grow out of this, will have some interactive features. And I think it'll have a day-night cycle and it'll have nice ambient sounds. And that dome will not be lit at night. Anyway, forward are their ordinary first-class staterooms. And you notice too that some of these things for strength purposes, or if it's a bathroom, WCs and baths, there'll be a metal wall. And then for uh, actual staterooms, they're more lightly constructed. And these are the simplest. This, I think, rail and style is what it's called. And these rooms will be more simply furnished, but they'll still be comfortable. Many of them will have a nice vanity like this. Some of the staterooms that are a bit smaller will have the fold-down vanity type. I forget what it's called, what the company is called. There's one of these rooms on either side is open. So you see, now we're on B deck, so you got nice big windows. And much of the ship had uh, bathrooms that were shared by passengers. Ensuite baths were not that common. Already they were increasing, though. There were even more of them on Britannic, and Titanic had picked up quite a number over Olympic. And during Olympic's lifetime, right up until she was scrapped in 35, she would have seen similar changes where they would add more and more ensuite bathrooms. Beautiful. And that's where the name of the project comes from. That's the allegorical figures, honor and glory, crowning time. The project, though, has always adopted the American spelling of honor. I don't know if it's got something to do with copyright or what, but. And then there was small staterooms back here. They were ordinary first-class staterooms. They were sort of jammed in back here, and the last stateroom is shared with the smallest of the officer staterooms So this is actually part of the um, officer's deck house. And then with the same roof line, it's extended to become this nice landing with the grand staircase. After this, though, all you've got is the raised roof for the larger things. And then you have small deck houses like officers' mess and things like that. Whoops, did I miss something? Yes, I did. I didn't go in the gym. And my kitty cat's talking to me. What up, Milo? Bunk. I always thought it was kind of an odd placement. You know, it's pleasant to have the sunlight and everything, but you'd almost expect it to be closer to the Turkish baths or someplace where they could bathe instead of getting all sweaty and then walking through here, this beautiful formal space. Anyway, these smaller staterooms, I think, were used by company riders sometimes. None of the markings there are in this demo. There's the gear for the elevators, or the lifts. I think when they were first invented, they were called elevators, but I think the term is considered a bit pretentious and eventually became lift in England and many other places. They call it a lift. The Britannic was a change in this area. Her elevators went all the way up the boat deck. So that means that um, instead of having the mechanicals room here, you would have the three elevators, and then the mechanicals room would be up on the roof. And then you would have to pass in front of the elevators to get across because this rounded balustrade here doesn't exist on Britannic or would not have been incorporated in Britannic, but rather this railing would have continued all the way to a wall, and this whole thing would have incorporated a large organ, mechanical organ that could be played. You'll see pictures of it sometimes in a beautiful doorway down here with the, I guess you could get to the keyboard. But this whole rounded part would be missing. This would continue all the way to the wall, a giant organ all the way 2 stories high. And for some reason, maybe it was dangerous, people leaning over all of this area here. But on the Britannic, you have a big curved railing here, and then it goes straight. And then in later years, too, I don't know if people got taller, whatever the reason, on Olympic, you'll notice that they have like brass, I think, rail, or handrails higher up, a little easier to grab. You'll see that in some of the promotional pictures of people walking down in their formal wear, and you can see the little the brass tubes. Let's see, did we get everything on this floor? I think we did. We'll have to come back though, or there's other ways to get to the officer's space, but we can do it from here as well. All right, now this is, okay, B deck. I don't believe this is modeled, so these doors don't open. But there's the elevators. Don't know if this is Louis the 16th or Empire. I always get the two styles confused. As I say on Britannic, this would go up one more deck. And here's the inquiry office and the purser's office. This has only been opened for this version of the demo. Now, there were 3 demos before this, and they had said for years that 3 would be the last demo before the game came out, but there was such a big change in the direction of the game. Originally, there was a story mode, there would be a syncing, all kinds of things, but eventually the team, the creative director moved on, and they decided to simply make it an explorable ship with interactive features. So the final game will be even more interactive than Project 401, which is based on what you see here. And that's going to be quite a sight. It'll be the first time that you'll actually be able to see the shear. In this case, you see it's all nice and straight here, but that's not really the way it would look. I mean, this is a fairly short distance, so I guess the shear wouldn't be terribly pronounced, but you see no shear at this point. But once Kyle is done with his hull and they begin to populate the spaces with all the beautiful models, then you're going to have a real sense for where everything fits. There'll be no more guesswork, no more things bumping into things, and you know, as I say, this grew out of the mega demo that was pitched to um, investors years ago, and it was never meant to be knit together into a real demo like this. So they've done a ton of work to make this available to people because we've waited so long for the project that many people were becoming annoyed. I mean, those of us who've been there from the beginning understand the limitations, and they've really bit off more than they can chew. And even now, the alpha, when they come out with the actual game, has such ambitious interactive features that you have to wonder if there aren't going to be further delays. But anyway, this is still more than most people have gotten to see so far. One of Titanic Honor and Glory's discoveries was this bulkhead here where they realized that it was different from Olympic, that they actually used wider windows here, whereas on the Olympic it mirrors that design in the back. You know, those would have been windows in the arches there. So you would have had 5 nice windows, and just like you see there, you see the nice arches. Those would have been mirrored in that wall and, you know, with glass. So this was a big change between the two ships. And they were only able to discover this from one single photograph where things just didn't look right. They weren't lining up properly. And there is a video out there about it. So these, I'm not sure what's going on with the way this is being rendered, but I think these panels, stained glass panels, are actually meant to disguise the portholes better than this. Now you see we're in the hull now. So we're below B deck, C deck. This is D deck. So you see these are portholes, not windows. Beautiful piano, all inlaid. I think Steinway provided all the pianos. Now, let's see me back up a little bit. Come on, bumping into a chair. Originally, in Olympic's design, this wall continued all the way straight and then returned to that wall, so that these double doors were actually right here and faced the dining room. But again, experience during Olympic's first season was they realized that people love this room, and so they needed to expand it. So they sort of notched it back, turned the doors into, you know, so that now they face the trunk where you've got the elevators. And then on Britannic, as I noticed on the plans Matt DeWinkler put out, he has both the Titanic and the Britannic plans, that the this boarding area is reduced further, increasing the size of the reception room even more. This is a nice little difference between Olympic and Titanic. They discovered that, you know, I think from the wreck that there were differences in the ceiling. I think originally, um, I think the lighting was different, and it was simpler. It wasn't this kind of Elizabethan looking or Jacobean looking scroll work on the ceiling. So, and eventually, I think they're going to change these doors as well, because I think they've discovered that these are pocket doors and not, they don't hinge open but actually slide into the walls. This is E deck. That would be to Scotland Road, to the third class spaces and some of the crew spaces and engineering spaces. And then over here, THG team believes that this is Margaret Brown's room because she said that when she looked out her window, or I mean out of her door, she could see someone cranking something. Now that's for a manually operated watertight bulkhead below. And this apparently is the only place where she could have seen that. This is nice. Again, another ordinary first-class stateroom with the rail and style, but with nice furnishings. And even if your room was a little bit more modest than some of the beautiful period rooms on B and C deck, especially amidships, you still had access to all the first-class facilities. Now, her room is, I think, one of the alternate rooms. It could have been either first class or second class. So there's a group of rooms that are primarily first class but can be used as second class rooms. And then there's rooms that are primarily first class that could be used as first class rooms. And they would manage that through gates. And I think we're missing a little pocket panel here that would have hidden a gate. So the gate would have been across here, and I'm guessing that they wouldn't use these elevators coming down here if this were assigned as a second class space. There's no reason for a first class passenger to have come down to this landing. The earlier ones, the earlier demo 1, 2, and 3, they used to have a little sign that said, "Look up." See how beautiful it was. So for now, the Turkish bath down here is a separate load, but Derek has found some efficiencies, and he hopes that he can produce version 2.1 and make these contiguous. So you'll be able to walk through the store and you won't have to have a separate loading screen. I don't imagine the load takes too long, you know. Well, there's nothing really to see back here. Just another warren of rooms for service people. All right. So let's see. I guess I'll poke around. And then we'll come back and look at the baths. Right, so that's D deck. It's interesting, too, that the pantry and galley that serve this vast dining saloon, that's the full width of the ship, also serves second class. So beyond this, first you'll have the pantry, first class pantry, then the shared massive galley for both first and second class, then a second class pantry, and then there'll be the second class dining room. Oops, I don't want to go down, I want to go up. Let's see, we've already... All right, so this is the Regents. Sometimes called Regency, but I think the correct term is Regents, Régence. This is the one that James Cameron used this. He put it on the other side of the ship and up one deck, opened this up, give it the private promenade. But actually, this was the, what is it, the Jewish couple's name? Darn, I'm sorry, I'm old, I forget stuff. Oh, Straus, the Straus sitting room. It's interesting that this beautiful room is dark, and then this one is bright. But if you look in the other suite that we saw earlier, the sitting room is bright in the Adams style, and then the bedroom is this dark Renaissance. And this is the en-suite suite bath, and see how simple and functional this is. There's nothing fancy about this. Easy to clean, maintain, all metal surfaces. I had hoped that Kyle would incorporate his little flushing toilet. It's pretty cool to see the swirl, but it's not in this demo. Oh, there's the cat again. So this is this the Empire style? I don't know, it's supposed to have griffins or something, doesn't it? I don't know. Could be Louis the 16th for all I know. And then there's some ordinary first class staterooms around here. I don't know if it's this floor. Yeah, here's one. There's again the rails and stiles. This one is done in oak. Nice double basin. Yep, cat's going nuts. All right, let me get up and kick him out of the room. Because he's already been fed. He's had his pill. He's got water. He just wants attention. Oh, I know. He likes to go in my bedroom. There you go, buddy. Yep, that's what it was. This is pretty cool too. These lamps. There's a lot of different styles, but they all do basically the same thing. They're on a pivot, and so you can take them up off the wall and set them on a table. They've got fairly long cords. So you'd walk around with them like in the day they might have walked around with you know, an oil lamp. Another one of the same kind of rooms. This is the bottom of the special first class stateroom. So it has nice paneling, but it was considered the modern style, Harlan and Wolff's modern style or bedroom B. Nice. Oh, all right. There's the maids and valets, dining saloon, and who was it in Cunard that rode on the Olympic and liked this idea and wanted to add it to the Cunard ships? Anyway, this is new too for this Rev, this little pantry, and many many dining facilities throughout the ship that are connected with first class or with the officers, or in this case the maids and valets, would have been served by the big first class uh, galley downstairs, first second class galley. So a lot of them will have a lift or a dumb waiter, but not here because it's directly above. You just walk down these stairs and you're in the big galley. So there's the maids and valets dining saloon. And then this little saloon here is for the Marconi and post office workers. It doesn't have the nice paneling and stuff, but it's a nice private room. Well, maybe not as private as they would like. Apparently they decided to change this. I think change the entrance to the hallway because people were always, if they were using this hallway, they would cut through the Marconi and post office dining saloon to get to here instead of going all the way to the end and using that door. So, and then for Britannic, all of these rooms on this side. Let's see. Do we have any open? Yeah. See, there's sort of uh, the length, the longer part of the room is athwartships. But on Britannic, it was the other way. They eliminated the maids and valets on this deck, put it somewhere else, turned these rooms sideways. So, well, there's actually fewer of them. And then for the Britannic, this corridor aligns with this corridor. So the ordinary first class stateroom corridor aligns with the special first class staterooms, the period rooms, and now these rooms are able to be enlarged. And there is a rendering out there showing the extension of this room by, I think, the same person who's doing a lot of the modeling. There's two people, I don't know their names off the top of my head, that do a lot of the beautiful interior models and texture research and all that, the textiles. So, Anyway, I understand that this room's got something to do with, is it Adventure Out of Time or something? It's a reference to another story that I'm not familiar with. So here's the first class barber shop. And this would have been just choked with souvenirs. It was just like a little bauble shop. So it'll be interesting in the final game. I don't think they'll do it for Project 401, but in the final game, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing was just full of stuff. And then this is again another ordinary first class stateroom, and this is one of those hoist trunks. In this case, it goes from the uh, first class, second class, shared galley up to the a la carte restaurant. So they had their own pantry and galley, but I guess some things were brought up from below. I don't know if it was foodstuffs or actually prepared food. But that's the reason this room is probably one of the smallest of this type of room. So you've still got on C deck, the nice rooms continue beyond the staircase, whereas on B deck they stop there, and then you're looking at other facilities. But the nice paneling with the Venesta paneling is on both sides. But in fact, the rooms on the left are ordinary first class staterooms. The rooms on the right are the nicer period pieces. Chief steward, restaurant manager. See, I'm interested in this little bump out here. I see in Matt's schematic, his drawings, that this is actually in the next space over. Anyway, I think it's kind of odd that you've got a drop down lav here, and that'll bump right into this heater. But I'm sure there was a way around that. I'm guessing that this should actually be over a little bit, and just like the crown molding there overhangs the open space, I'm guessing that that should be overhanging, and maybe this should be over a little bit. Then you could shove this little sink over. It's nice, similar space. Which one is this now? Is this the assistant doctor? Yes. And then the doctor's office and his birthing area. And of course, this follows the uh, British usage, where this is called a surgery, and a surgery doesn't mean that you're cutting people open. It's actually just the doctor's office where people come and do consultations. A hospital. So there's no access to any other part of this deck, because right next to it would be uh, the first, second class galley and pantry areas. But there's an infectious ward here, but it's isolated, as you see. And then where's the? There it is, the padded room. I think someone said that it's supposed to be for people who are, I guess, disturbed, but it could be used too for prisoners. Somebody who was being restrained. I don't know. Could be wrong about that. All right. I think that's that. Don't know if I've caught all the rooms. Somewhere in here may be the modern Dutch and oak, the Mutters and Zoom room. Probably on the other side. Can I get through here? Yep. Okay. Now I think this is more accurate. One of the three um, Dutch rooms upstairs should probably look like this one. Although they still could be differently furnished though, with different bedsteads and stuff, and sometimes they had a big wardrobe. I thought the big wardrobes were here on C deck, but the one upstairs is in B deck. So similar to B deck, you've got the this would be the parlor suite. You know, the sitting room, a bedroom, another bedroom. But in this case, unlike B deck, where because of the change to the B deck promenade, you've got rooms that misalign after this group of rooms. On B deck, you have a sitting room, two bedrooms, and that's as much as you can rent. But all these rooms continue aligned because there was no change on C deck. So you could really rent any number of connecting rooms, and every few would have a private bath. But in this case, what you've got is sitting room, a nice special first class bedroom, and then I think you've got a bedroom A, the Louis XV French style, another bedroom A, and then you've got the Mutters and Zoom rooms. So Mutters and Zoom are grouped together into three rooms. There's what is it, Queen Anne, Louis XV, Louis XVI. No, Queen Anne, Louis XVI, and Empire, and then the Dutch rooms. And they're flipped. You have three together, three Dutch together on this side of the ship, and then up on the next level you'll have three on the other side of the ship. So they flip them. The Mutters and Zoom rooms are similar, but like the Dutch will be on the port side on one deck and then on the starboard side on the other. Probably not of very much interest to most people, but I just like details like that. I think there's a Louis XVI Harlan Wolff style room, so it's not outfitted by Mutters and Zoom. So sometimes it gets confusing when people will say Louis XVI. They'll say that's not Louis XVI. Well, there might be three Louis XVIs. There might be a sitting room done in one style with maybe lighter panels or darker panels. Then you'd have a bedroom that's made by Harlan Wolff, and then you might have a bedroom that was fitted out by the Dutch firm. So you might have three different styles. So where is that thing? I know here somewhere. Same one. Maybe I'm on the wrong deck. It's easy to get confused. It would be nice eventually if, whether it's in Project 401 or the actual game, the alpha version, a lot of people say they'd like to have a little compass so they know what direction to go. I have to remember constantly that these beautiful stairways face aft, and then I got to figure out what's going on. But I get lost too, even as much as I've played around on this thing. Nope. All right, must be on the other level. Well, let's see. This is a C deck. Is there anything open on C deck? All right, this is the room that would have been occupied by the dastardly criminal of the original game idea, the storyline. He would have been, and then the hero, the one you play, would have been mistaken for this guy, and you had to learn a bunch of stuff and go through different classes, and you work your way around the ship until you know what's going on, and that's how you would have learned about the ship. And then you would find this guy and solve a mystery, and you'd have to solve it, and you'd have an active sinking. So unfortunately, all of that's gone. And the story would have started in Southampton. That was really interesting too. That was partially modeled as well, but at least the current plans for the finished game are not to include a sinking or Southampton or a storyline or anything like that. But it seems to me the more accurate, the more beautiful this is, the more it'll attract investors. It's possible that they could actually grow this project even more. But it's still an ambitious project, even as it is. This demo makes 50% of the ship available. But the plan is to have 100% of the ship available. So if you could walk there, even if you're walking around in coal bunkers, and they are available in this one, then they would be modeled. So the whole ship, if you can get into it, it should be modeled eventually. So B deck, B deck. Some people asked if they were going to model additional rooms, but no additional rooms will be available in version 2.1 that's to come after this. It's supposed to increase, it's supposed to, he's found some efficiencies. Here it is, the Louis XVI room. Derek Favre, the head programmer, has found some efficiencies, and he continues to find problems in the game engine and solve them. And more machines are able to run these demos. So you see how this B deck was affected by removing the promenade. Now you've got these little short corridors, and then these infill spaces that roughly take up, this was the space by shoving the rooms outboard of the ship. You gain space inboard, and then they can add wardrobe rooms, I think it was, or bathrooms and servants' quarters. So all in all, it was a better design. So Harlan Wolff and White Star were constantly improving the ships. So they might have started out from the same plans, but they ended up being different ships. Although when you look at some of the others, like the Cunarders, they're very different from one to the other in decoration. Nope. Anyway, that was the Louis XVI. Okay, so boarding area, and on this side the private promenade is open. And I think, what is this? A Louis the 15th sitting room, but if it's modeled, I've never seen it. So you see how it's got a sitting room and then 2 bedrooms. And then all the other bedrooms are shoved out to the edge of the ship, which is the big difference between this and the Olympic. Let's see, what was I thinking? C deck. Back to the restaurant. Not the restaurant, the dining saloon. Right. And then the ordinary first class staterooms. And then on this side, you see this is one of those gates where if you close it off, then this could be used for second class. But if it's going to be assigned to first class, then you want those people to be able to use the squash court. That's the post office through that door. That's a separate load. These are nice plans that were put together to give you an idea what the progress is. This is available on their website. Well, let's see. Have I hit everything in first class? I think so. I guess we could poke around a little bit in some of these spaces. I guess these are sorting rooms. And both the U.S. Mail Service and Her Majesty's, or His Majesty's, uh, um, Postal Service were served by this facility. So RMS, Royal Mail Service, but also the U.S. Postal Service was here. And some storage. One of the holds, I guess. Not sure. And I think too, I think it was Kyle that said that this is not really the way they were secured, but just for fun for now, gives us something to look at. That's the thing about the project and why it takes so long. They're constantly learning, and by actually making this three-dimensional, it seems to accelerate. People jump on and say, "Oh, it was actually like this. Oh, here I have this resource." And now that they've teamed up with, what is it? Titanic Inc., the people who own the wreck site, then they may have a chance to see even more artifacts and learn even more. So again, because they're going for accuracy, it takes a long time, and they're going to get derailed from time to time. It's just the way it is. Okay, well, I think we're going to skip the first class accommodations because that's a long load. We've already been through all of that. Let's see. Whoops, that's not what I want. It's funny they would call it quit. That music is from one of the earlier demos. Guess I really should have paused because these do take a long time. So you see how there's really no shear in this, but when when the alpha comes out, it'll be fully implemented. You'll be able to see the gentle curves. Now, if we were to use this jump point to see the crew areas, you would skip. You wouldn't get to cross the well deck, but you would end up somewhere down there near that left ladder. Again, this is something that was new to Titanic. These wing cabs overhung a little bit, and they didn't originally on Olympic. I guess eventually it was changed, but I'm not sure if it was a permanent change or just not permanent. But I'm not sure if they rebuilt it or just made like a little extension that would drop down. Seems like I've seen something with chains, but could be mistaken. I guess too, these were the windows they had trouble. I guess they couldn't find the crank or something during the sinking. I don't remember. But I think they ended up loading above. I'm pretty dim about that stuff. In the earlier versions, right up until I guess we were waiting for 1.5. If you got anywhere near this first class lounge, everything just sort of stuttered and stalled. So this is a vast improvement. So instead of releasing 1.5, they jumped to 2, and they had also implemented Unreal Engine 5. So, and like I say, Kyle did his thing, Kyle Hudak, and added a ton of spaces. It was a real treat. Let's see now, what is this? Is that? I think these cranes service the number 4 hold. So that cover is, what is that? Port side of number 4 hold, and then this one on the starboard side as well. That's hold 4. And then 5 and 6 are here in the well deck. There's 5, and there's 6. There's the veranda and palm courts again. The fan room. And this is, as I said, this kind of extends back. These walls go aft and meet up with here. And this may even have been extended a bit so that the whole of these rooms, which are essentially unchanged, the veranda and palm courts, are now further aft, which opens up some space forward to move the pantry and galley and possibly a restroom, I'm not sure, to a more convenient space. It added a bit more space to the smoke room because you no longer had the galley pantry jammed up against the second class staircase that passes through and bifurcates these two areas, bisects them, whatever. So, there we are, boat deck. And you see, boat deck is got some deck houses. Obviously, it's got the officer's deck house. And the original version of Olympic, before she was refit after the loss of Titanic, this was a bit different. I don't think they had these extra staterooms back here. The pilot house was different. It had a nice rounded front on the Olympic. So things were generally changed around. So this deck house was kind of new to Titanic. There's an expansion joint. And over the life of these ships, too, like the Britannic, I think ended up with 4 expansion joints. So they kept playing with it. And obviously the reason for expansion joints is that everything in the superstructure is more lightly constructed. And it's likely to kind of creak, whereas I guess a hull is more like a torque box. It distributes forces more evenly. But up here you've got basically a structure sitting on top of the hull. And if the hull is flexing, you need to be able to take up some of those stresses and not to make a creaky mess out of out of people trying to sleep, you know. So there's one of the expansion joints there. And this here, this is where the playroom exists on Olympic, was added on Olympic. You'll see on A Night to Remember they show a playroom, but it may be that they were thinking when they did the Titanic, they had, you know, the Olympic was within living memory, so they may have patterned it more closely to Olympic than they meant to. So there's the number 1 funnel, number 2 funnel, 3 and 4, and there's the raised roof. There's a bit of a structure around there, but I wouldn't call that really a deck house. This is a deck house here. So the nice entrance here for the first class is an extension of the officer's deck house. Then you have the raised roof that allows certain transom windows to admit more light and have a nice taller room. And this is the part of the raised roof that was deleted because of the children's playroom. They came all the way out to here. And the alcove of the reading and writing room was gone. So There's a nice little compass rose. And I think underneath here is the recess for the central area of the first class lounge where you've got that big electrolier and you've got big ventilation vents tucked up in the decoration. So boiler rooms are numbered from the engine room forward. The funnels are 1, 2, 3, and 4, but 4 being not a dummy entirely because it was used for ventilation. But here you've got the boiler, the funnels coming up from, what is it, boiler room 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, and 5 and 6. So boiler room 6 was opened up during the sinking. That was one of the places where they saw water flooding in. And they call it a funnel because basically we think of the funnel as the stack, but actually the funnel flares out to the boilers, and that's what makes it kind of a funnel shape, upside down, you know. All right, so there's the raised roof for the first class lounge, the reading and writing room. And then you've got a couple of deck houses. I mean, you've got access, and sometimes you've got storage up here, and this goes down. We came up this way. This goes down to A deck. But you've also got now some actual deck houses. So you've got some engineering stuff coming up here, and you've got, let's see, I think you've got an officer's mess somewhere here. I probably should have crossed over on the roof. Makes more sense. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is the officer's mess up here, the chow hall. And I think that's an engineer's space. So you see you got that big skylight there. I think that's the casing that goes down to the reciprocating engines. So there's a big skylight there. We want to go, I guess we could go forward and check out the bridge. Yeah, I wish I knew more of this stuff technically. I'm sure a lot of you guys would be more interested in that, but okay. It's nice in previous versions you could actually see those little gates swing. And if I'd planned this better, I could have paused all of these loading screens. Some of them aren't bad though. So anyway, here's the officer's deck house, and this would be right here, Captain Smith's quarters. But although they're being modeled, they've never been revealed. That's going to be one of the little treats, you know, that we'll eventually see, but not right now. And then cross over. Here's the Marconi room. The silent room is back here. It was a double wall construction, I guess, because there are staterooms on the other side there. And I guess this could be a pretty noisy affair. And this, I guess, are buckets of sand, I'm guessing, for putting out an electrical fire. Interesting. And I think, I'm not sure, but it seems like, what is it, this panel was thought to be on this wall until they found the wreck. They found it in the wreck. This is where Marconi guys would have slept. Compactum, that's the name of the company's name for these flip tops. Compactum. And there's tubes for, you know, for messages. And then the chart too. Communication chart. Interesting. There's the expansion joint we saw outside. I think behind here is where the pilot would have sleeping quarters, and he would only pilot the ship in harbors and stuff where he knew the waters. When we go down to the crew spaces, that cover, that's hold number 1, and that cover is actually off. When we're down below, you can see the sun streaming too. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Remember, 4 is split. It's bisected by some spaces, and so access to the number 4 hold is through 2 hatches, and then 5 or 6 in the well deck. The experienced Britannic patroness of the Mediterranean, you can walk all the decks on walk the boat deck on that one. There is a sinking animation for that, but they've only modeled the very few spaces that are, different from Titanic, like I was talking about the organ, the big organ. Um, I think they added a sitting room in the Georgian style on C deck, so that's there. A couple of spaces, a couple of unique spaces, and also in that experience, you can select between uh, the finish she would have had she entered passenger service and the way she was actually used during a wartime service. So it's kind of nice. You get to explore the ship both ways, and you have some loading screens. But you see, there isn't that much that's explorable, so it's pretty contiguous. All right, so see what now? This is closed off. We can't use that stairway. So how do we do this? I hate to go back and load that. That's just too slow. Well, I guess I could pause though. So now we're back on the first class section of the boat deck. So the way boat deck is divided is forward of that is that gate is the officer's promenade. This is the first class promenade, the largest promenade on the ship. Then engineer's promenade, this small promenade here, and after that, the second class promenade. And they're kind of obscured by the lifeboats there, but they still have some nice views, especially looking aft. Now we're going to go down on B deck, see if I can find that spot where we can jump to the crew station. We could go to, or the crew, whoops, where am I? We could go to the menu, but I want to do it this way. All right. It's interesting that the B deck promenade was mostly lost, but then on Britannic, they retained the ordinary first class stateroom promenade, and they only extended the rooms out after the grand staircase. And then on Olympic, which always had a B deck promenade, but lost some sections when the a la carte restaurant was extended. They actually extended the rooms, the forward ordinary first class staterooms, all the way out to the sides of the ship, and created some very nice new ones with en suites and new styles. So here we are. Here's an example of a galley. You can see, even though they didn't model the whole length of the ship, you can see it here. You can see what's going on with the bottom here, how it's a bit different, and you see how that cabinet has to be chopped a certain way just to get it to fit level. But these are examples of the big stoves. Somebody joked that, I think Spamels joked that that was a big potato. Beautiful. It's really interesting. So this is some of the spaces too that Kyle surprised everybody with and added them. There's a nice fly-through video that revealed it, when it came out. That doesn't always load properly. I'm getting the black ocean again. Nice. That's interesting, these cranks, how they create ventilation, and I'll show you. Well, we've already been aft, so I guess I won't show you, but see, this is the number one hold with the cover removed. Now if we go this way, this is the mast. Oop, come on, buddy. You can do it. It doesn't want to go over. I don't understand why. Well, won't be able to visit it, I guess, if I can't get the prompt. Let's see, try this way. There it goes. I had to crouch a little bit. Ding, ding. Down here, yep. Now this would take us down, I think, in the third class spaces. Is that right? There it is. Yeah, third class open space. We can do that later. Some of the eating spaces for the crew. This is, I think, stokers, firemen, stuff like that. They're all forward of the ship. See, there's that little indication of shear again. Okay, this way down. All right, gotta make sure and use the right ladder. Some trouble with these. I don't know if I can go against the back. Well, maybe. Spaces. What is this, the chain locker here? And I think they had to keep that covered because oxidation could, I guess, poison people. Hope I didn't make a mistake here. Nope. All right, I better pause and see if I can figure. I always have a little trouble getting up out of there. crouch. It's like a little bit. It's way down, okay. Helps if I hit the right key. Let's see that. I think we'll just take us down to the fireman's passage, so we'll just drop on it down here. Where is it now? It's supposed to be some secret treasure down here, but you can almost miss it. Oh, there it is. Ta-da! Continue on down. There's a fireman's passage. The Titanic channel on it's now on Amazon Prime. There's an episode. What is his name? Park Stevenson. He thinks that one of the reasons that Titanic was able to stay afloat longer than she was intended, probably Thomas Andrews' estimate was more correct, and that she should have sunk, was it like an hour earlier? But because of the coal fire, and they had moved coal to, what is that? I say ports, to the port side, I guess. To the port side. She had a bit of a list on that side. She was a bit heavy. So as they were taking on water on this side, on the starboard side, pulling it down, it stayed level for a while until it got low enough that this tunnel got overtopped, and then the list continued on that side. So it sort of hovered between listing because of the damage and listing because of the moved coal. And his theory is that the tunnel helped stabilize the ship longer, and unusually they were able to launch boats on both sides. What frequently happens is because the ship is so cockeyed that they just can't do it on one side. All right, so here's the boiler room coming up. As I say, you number them from the engine. So this is boiler room 6. So I think it's on this side that it opened up. Excuse me. Had to cough there. See, so these are double-ended boilers. So this is still, I believe, boiler room 6, and then you could go into boiler room 5. This passage is a little off center, but goes all the way aft through all the boiler rooms. Now, in this demo, you can't go any farther than this, so you can only do boiler rooms 5 and 6. Somewhere in here was an ash place, but I don't remember which side it was. Was it here? No, because it'd have to have a bucket on the floor. I don't understand this whole layout. Not every not every one of the boiler rooms has an ash place, an ash hoist. So there was an ash ejector, which was to be used out at sea, and I think a hoist for dropping the ash on a barge when they were in port. Let's see. Right, so now we're back in boiler room 6. Let's see, what was I thinking? Oh, now it is possible to get in here, but I don't know how well I'll be able to do it. No, I guess you can't climb up that one. It's not, this isn't the right one. I think you can climb a pile somewhere. Boy, I'm getting lost here. Nope, not here. I'm not going to be able to find it. I just don't remember where it was. I know I was able to get up there one time. Oh, well, one of these gives you access higher up. I just can't find it. You have to poke around on your own. Anyway, this demo is available on the Titanic Honor and Glory website. This is not the Steam version. The Steam version hasn't come out yet. All right, so the Steam version is Project 401. Oh, there's an ash hoist. So I think we're in the right place. All right, I have to crouch again to get up this first part, I think. Okay, now. Oh, try again. All right. So this is the ash place, and you can't actually fall through that if you want to and go back down again. All right, this will take us into Scotland Road, the Stewart's lavatory. So now we're accessing the third class spaces. So if you wanted to, I think one of these doors. Yeah, see, that would have taken you to boiler room 6 as well. And then you could also get into the Turkish bath. Oh, we haven't done that, have we? There's the Sergeant at Arms. And it's a different kind of folding. It's a pop-up one, folding lav. And this is the forward part of the ship, so this is where single and unaccompanied men would have been, and aft would have been unaccompanied women and families. But see, it's pretty Spartan. There's no water here. I mean, there's no basin or anything. Just a place to sit. And this is one of the nice spaces for third class passengers, the third class open space. I wonder if this is where the big dance scene was in the movie Titanic. And this is another way to get up into the cruise area. You would go upstairs and then you would see the galley. So this is numbers 2 and 3 hold the hatches. So they would go down there. These covers, be removed and be able to drop stuff down there. Cranes servicing all of them. Nice space. I think for what used to be called steerage passengers, this is pretty luxurious. For now, you can't access any more down there. I think when they originally had this promotion crowdfunded, I think I bought one of the rooms here. Don't remember. Okay, so this is Scotland Road, the main access passage for crew and third class. We just came from here. The ash place is in the corner there. The glory holes. Another bathroom, lavatory. I guess it's more proper to call it a lav, but I'm an American, so we call everything bathrooms, whether there's a bath in it or not. All right, so here's the third class dining saloon. I'm not sure. I know it was separated like berthing was, where you had single and unaccompanied men on one side and then women and families on the other. But I don't know if they would come from the front and access the aft section because it's split by a watertight bulkhead, or if they would overshoot and use the other stairs and go into this section. I don't know. I don't know which section belongs to those men. But anyway, this is nice. Good food, plenty of it. No special paneling, but a very pleasant room. I'm not sure where I think there's a kosher kitchen around here someplace. Kosher galley. I think they had at least one kosher chef. So, Jewish passengers that observe the dietary laws would have been supplied with their own chef. And I guess if they're Orthodox, they had separate dishes too. I think I've seen pictures of the ones for meat and the ones for dairy. I think this is where the musicians practiced. It could have been their berthing too. I don't know. Okay, and here's the engineer's mess. And there's a hoist going up to the first class, second class galley. And then there's a stairway too, I think. Is it this door? Yeah, I think so. This door that goes down. So here we are in the reciprocating engine room. And there's that big skylight I was talking about earlier. And these little louvered doors down here, that stairway goes down to a short passage, and there are engineers' staterooms in there. So it's nice and compact, Basically, you've got one big engineering tunnel for the engines going all the way up. You got a smoke room above, and you've got their engineers' mess right here, and engineers' berthing here on both sides. So that's pretty cool. And then after that is the reciprocating engine, because the Olympic class ships used a combination of reciprocating engines and turbine engines, which made them very efficient, even more efficient than they thought they would be. here's the, can't go any further, but there's the uh, turbine engine casing, and I don't know if this vent goes down to the galley, because a lot of the venting was served by this. This is the dummy funnel area. But it's not just there for looks. It actually functions as a large ventilation trunk. Well, I think you can go a bit down below. I don't know how much. Not too far. Are those thrust blocks or something? Not sure. But propellers. See, now is that the reciprocating engine? Must be. We're not quite center, are we? So, sorry, I'm a bit of a dope about this kind of stuff. Now, somewhere in here, you start to see the daylight. Those are the numbers 5 and 6 hold hatches. So 4 has to be nearby. So look for the bit of wall that's made of metal. There it is. So this is the port side access to the number 4 hold, and then there's one on the other side as well for starboard. I think this is the third class entrance right somewhere in here, isn't it? Maybe I overshot it. Might be on a different level. I'm getting confused here. Well, there's the doors into second class right there. So this is the third class entrance here, I think. And the potato place. Nice. And below us is lots of refrigerated areas. So, the hatch for number 5. Hatch for number 6. So now above us is the well deck. And the only third class stateroom that's modeled so far, well, we had the, what is that, an 8-man room back there? But this is pretty cool. There's their little sink. And even like some of the compactums, you have to fill them manually. Most of them are not connected to water, and this type is never connected to water, piped in. So you'd have to have a steward fill that for you. What is that, life jackets? I think. You see how it's open at the top, so not terribly private. And I'm guessing if you actually had a realistic sinking, a lot of these partitions would have to give way, so I don't know how you would ever model that. So now we're all the way aft. I think this is the aftmost stairway. I don't think there's anything to see on this level. Just an idea of how to get to the rooms and stuff. And you see how things that need reinforcing have the metal, or if they're, again, bathrooms are very functional areas. So you have structural things like that, and then lighter constructed partitions creating the rooms. And some of them were temporary. I think forward, some of them could be removed, the partitions, so that you would get additional cargo space. Because you might have large groups of immigrants heading west from Europe to the Americas. But then the other way, you could use those spaces. You wouldn't have as many people crossing over, and so you could use those spaces for cargo. And this is the bar for the third class smoke room. It's a nice room, isn't it? Beautifully paneled, very handsome. I think Derek added this little smoke. And then I think one of these rooms became the hospital for the Britannic. I mean, the plan was that it would be the hospital. So the smoke room ended up all the way up on the deck, on the poop deck. And there's, again, a similar room. Of course, there's no bar in the corner there. Piano. This is the emergency into the steering gear. So I think they've modeled some of that, but it's not available in the demo. And the well deck, as I said, numbers 5 and 6 hold. Number 4 cover is right. One of the number 4 covers is right there. But that's second class. We'd need to go to a load screen for that. This is where we first met. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you? Docking bridge. Beautiful. What a handsome ship. See, this second class was interesting. When Design D was proposed, that was the last of the preliminary designs that was approved by White Star. It was pretty different on B deck. You didn't have an a la carte restaurant. There was no main mast, only a foremast, and the smoke room was where the a la carte restaurant ended up being. So things got moved around quite a lot. But in adding a main mast and moving the smoke room, they created a nice kind of tower of convenience for second class passengers. It's practically a little city by itself. So there's 2 stairways. Uh, if you look at what you can see of the main mast there, the base, that little deck house there is the second class's rear stairway, and that's an open stairway. And then you skip A deck, which is exclusively first class, and then you go back to second class passengers on the top deck on boat deck, and you see that deck house popping up there is the forward staircase for second class, and that one has an elevator, so you also see the elevator gear on the top between the 2 vents. Now, yeah, there we go. These are the things that we saw forward that you cranked up from underneath. I think that's what that is, to provide additional ventilation. And this is the triple screw sign. Mark Chirnside says in one of his books that Thomas Andrews had recommended that they permanently attach it so as not to screw up the paint, because I guess the practice of the time was to remove those and only use them when they were in port, I think. But the decision was made to leave them. Here's the steering gear, so I thought that you could see a little bit of something down through those little lights, but that might be another demo or something, or another version of this demo. But since it's not explorable, I can see why they would have blocked it out. Beautiful. It's beautiful. Look at, I like these handles too, because these things were directed manually. This is like air intakes. They're just air rams. So the crew would have to, say, okay, well, it's coming from northeast, so we need to turn all these things to make take best advantage of of the wind. All right. Is that door? It is. Okay. We could have gone up the stairs too. All right, and this is second class. Very handsome. So this is the aft one. So of course it doesn't go up as high. It only goes this far. You can't cross over, and so they have to provide a crossover back here. So now we're on C deck. Whoops, I'm sorry. That's not right, is it? No. Boat deck, A deck, B deck, I guess. Their crossover, where is that? Because you don't want to go inside when you cross over. There it is. It's just tucked in here. All right, so if this is B deck, then this must be this B deck, the smoke room. And there it is with the little alcove bench, the niche there for sitting. So this is the men's smoke room, second class. And a lot of these fittings, this is the same fittings they had on Olympic. They were sold and they're in various locations around the world. Beautiful. Very handsome. But you see if we go back into the landing, see, we're already, this is the top of the aft stairway then. You can't go any further. But if you cross over to the other side, go forward, and here's the elevator. Speed deck. Now you see this is A deck, and A deck is exclusive to first class passengers, and so there's no access for second class on this deck. And to either side are those veranda and palm courts, and this is the fan room we poked around in earlier. So it's a bit anomalous, but oops. This is the second class promenade on boat deck. It's quite a lot of space actually because you've got the raised roof over the first class smoke room here. And I believe that's the dome, the aft dome of first class. But this is all for walking. This is all second class. I'm going to say the boats are kind of in the way, but you can get up on the a bit higher. Get a nicer view, and you can see aft. And there's the elevator gear. So that's kind of anomalous. You've got a second class overlooking a first class deck, and then back to second class, and then finally third class in the well deck. But as I said, if you look between the mainmast and this deck here, all your public spaces for second class are between these two. So it's very convenient, very beautifully compact. Now it's a little bit aft, so there's already a bit of shear in the floor, but I don't know. That's not really modeled here, so I don't know if it, if it would have been felt or if they would have even been aware of it. All right, so there's the beautiful smoke room. And now the lounge, sometimes called the library in later years in Olympic, or reading and writing room. Handsome bookcase, nice light. I don't know what kind of wood that is, pecan or something. I don't know. Beautiful reading desks. Probably get tired of me saying beautiful. This always seemed odd to me. You'll see some pictures of on Olympic of musicians here and people dancing, and like, is that right? I always thought that was the elevator side, but I'm getting confused. That's all right. So anyway, Spamos too mentions that this is kind of awkward. I think it is too. I don't understand why they didn't put two doors in here. Why they had to put the door behind here. But it's a handsome room. Oops, might as well poke around here a little bit. Nice little elevator. So when you get to the final alpha of the game, I guess this is the kind of thing you'll be able to activate. You could flip the switch and maybe go down the elevator. You'll be able to operate stuff all over the ship, and you'll have log entries to learn things and take notes, and pretty interesting. This is pretty cool too. Little fake advertisement of the day, and it's their own pictures, really. Pictures of their game. But this is the next development of this particular model, and that's Demo 401 becomes Project 401 with some interactive features and nice sounds, ambient sound and stuff. So and that will be available on Steam for a cost. So here we are at the second class dining saloon. Pretty good size, huh? And on through these doors, if you could get in there, would be the second class pantry. Excuse me. And beyond it, the galley, then the first class pantry and the first class dining saloon. So it's pretty much amidships and, less movement and nice. That would take you to third class. In one of the demos, that door is open and you can see that the tile is green. It has changed, so you're in a different area. There's really nothing to see back there. Nothing's open. All right. The second class inquiry office. Don't know if the purser's office is in there too. And then a short jump here. They just didn't model the. There's no load to speak of. They just didn't model this hallway. And then the second class chief steward, I think. Does it say anywhere? I think it says it on the plans. A single sink compactum. I think it's kind of funny how wrinkly they make this texture. I say I probably need to lend them an iron. They see how well laid out the public spaces are, all between these two stairways and a nice elevator. I think that was a first for second class passengers. So that's that crossover there. And I think if you go down, so we'll go over here so we don't have to cut through a public room. Avoid chairs. Now the crossover is on this side, but you can still enjoy the promenade without having to go inside. You can keep, just have your air out here. And those are the stewards and, was it the chief steward and the assistant doctor and the doctor? That's a first class space. See, I'm trying to think if there's anything I've missed. Oh, caught all the crew spaces, the decks, forward. No. All right, I think we're done. I hope you enjoyed it.